Hey everybody, Brian Kane here. And in this session, I want to talk about a word that I think is maybe one of the most powerful words in the English language, but a word that a lot of people see as negative because it's overused and I think really used and taken in the wrong context. And that word is responsibility. What do I mean, responsibility? Well, think about this. The most powerful 10-word sentence in the English language is made up of only 7 small 2-letter words. And that sentence is, if it's up to be, it is up to me. That's responsibility. Taking charge of your future. Taking charge of how you're going to respond to things. See, so many people are affected by outside influences, by things that they can't control. They're a victim of outside factors. And if you've read Man's Search for Meaning, you realize that, hey, if Viktor Frankl can survive the concentration camps, what can I do? What can I survive? Can I survive my everyday life that goes on here and maintain a positive attitude? Sure you can. You see, there's a simple equation that I want you to dedicate to knowing by heart and actually implementing. And that equation is E plus R equals O. And what that stands for is event plus response equals outcome. Event plus response equals outcome. You see, it's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you, your response, that's going to determine that outcome. That's why we talk about your responsibility. You see, as a human being, you've got the ability to respond any way you want. The same thing happens to 2 different people. They're both going to respond completely different ways. You see, what separates man and animal? Well, with animal, as we learned from Pavlov's dog experiment, is that there's a stimulus and then there's a response. Right? They ring that bell and the dog starts to salivate because it thinks it's getting food. Well, in humans, there's the stimulus, then there's a pause, and then the response. And that pause is your awareness. That pause is your ability to stay in control of yourself. And that pause is what separates those who can stay in control under pressure and those that crack. You see, and how you use that pause. That here's a stimulus, someone says something to me, a fan says something, something happens. Now, most people, they react right away. Those who are disciplined, those who have a trained responsibility. Something happens, they breathe, and then they respond. You see, if you take emotion out of the picture, you tend to respond much more clearly. What does emotion do? We learned that emotion clouds reality. And I can't tell you the number of people that have fired off at me. My job as an athletic director, or when you're a coach, you have fans, parents, athletes, even me as a coach sometimes. Anytime I act out of emotion, I usually go to regret it later. Because emotion clouds reality. So remember our rules of responsibility. You have to be in control of yourself before you can control your performance. And you got very little control of what goes on around you, but total control of how you choose to respond to it. One of the initial things we talked about, ACE, forcing yourself to act different than how you feel, being an actor, taking that responsibility and acting appropriately for what the situation gives. You see, anytime you get fired up, anytime you're overreacting, there's 3 things, 3 categories you can fall into. Primal, prayer, perfect. You can get over fired up, and when things go on, what do? You reach back and you throw as hard as you can. I'm going to go as hard as I can. Turn that caveman approach. Comes right out of Heads Up Baseball. I experienced all 3 of them when I was playing. You become the caveman, primal. Right? You respond primitively. That usually doesn't work. Or you become perfect. And you try to make everything perfect. Everything's got to be perfect. Well, perfectionism is a double-edged sword because while it motivates you to do better, it's that constant critic. You're never good enough. You're never good enough. It's never good enough. You throw them one hitter, I wanted a no-hitter. You walk one guy, I wanted to walk nobody. So a double-edged sword being perfectionism, it's going to motivate you to do better because it's never good enough, but at the same time it rips you down because you're never good enough. And the higher you go in levels of performance, the more you're going to fail because the talent is better. So the question becomes not who has talent, really, who can have talent, be able to bring it to the table consistently, and then Respond appropriately under pressure and when things don't go their way. Let go of those bricks, focus on the next day, focus on the next performance. That is responsibility. You see, the third P that people fall into is prayer. And they start praying, oh, I hope things go my way. I hope I can make this pitch. I hope I get a hit here. And that usually doesn't work for you. I hope if you're praying to somebody, they've got more important things going on in the world than helping your athletic performance. So falling out of that category of prayer, primal, perfect, and falling into this is what I do, this is what I have prepared to do when I get there by using my routine, because that is responsibility. Let me show you a video clip. Talk about acting and choosing how to respond. A friend of mine was a limousine driver. Pulls up, sees a beautiful gal, pulls over, stops, asks her, you know, how to get where he's going. Very interested. You'll see the sign. It says Hope. Hope Street. Well, what does Hope stand for? Hope stands for two things. Write these down. Hold on, possibilities exist. That no matter how bad the situation, there are always possibilities. And then hearing other people's experiences. There's two types of experience. Expensive and inexpensive. Expensive experience, as we've learned, is trying to figure out everything on your own, making your own mistakes, not being coachable, not having a mentor, learning from your own mistakes. And any pursuit of excellence is too difficult, too steep of a climb to only survive with expensive experience and only learn through expensive experience. You got to get inexpensive experience. And inexpensive experience is learning from others. So let's get some inexpensive experience by hearing other people's experiences and seeing this person who really is a limo driver, but jumps over the seat pretending to be a doctor on Hope Street, and see how he responds. See how he acts. Because he's a limo driver, but he's acting like a doctor because he thinks it'll get him a better chance to get that gal. Let's take a look.
Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to the medical school? I'm supposed to be doing a lecture in about 20 minutes and my driver's a bit lost.
You go straight ahead and you make the left over the bridge.
That's a lovely accent you have. New Jersey?
Austria.
Austria? Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
Let's not.
So in closing, try to be that limo driver. You know, act like a doctor, whether you're a limo driver or a doctor, it doesn't matter. Act appropriately. Force yourself to act different than how you feel. And when we're talking about inexpensive experience, one of the great things you can do is in your group of people, find out if there's people who have more experience than you. If you're a freshman and they're seniors, what do you know now that you wish you knew 3 years ago when you were a freshman or 4 years ago that would have helped you to perform better? What do you know now you wish you knew then, and can you pass on those lessons? And really that's what I'm trying to do here with this personal responsibility and daily excellence project, is I'm trying to pass on to you all the lessons and things that I've learned from being a peak performance coach that I see the best of the best doing, so that you can do them and avoid some of those same mistakes that I've made and mistakes that they've made, and perform to the best of your ability on a consistent basis. So remember, choose to respond appropriately in face of adversity. That is responsibility.